So how can you get an automatic 26-inch charge out of an Impulsor? It becomes possible with a bit of a devout push. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're talking about a nasty little combo that I wasn't previously aware was even possible. It is chapter specific to the Black Templars, and it's using the one command point stratagem, Devout Push. So Devout Push happens at the start of the fight phase. You select one Black Templar's infantry or biker unit from your army, and that unit can immediately pile in, even if it's not within engagement range. Also, until the end of the turn it can also consolidate 6 inches, though it's really the first part of the stratagem that I'm most interested in. It doesn't say anything about starting a fight sequence or anything like that. This literally happens completely independently of that, and basically gives your unit a free 3-inch move towards the nearest enemy, without any of the normal restrictions of declaring charges, or of normal movement restrictions such as staying out of engagement range. I'll be honest, I completely overlooked this the first time that I read it through in Faith and Fury, other than to note that I don't think it has the most helpful wording ever. It is just a little bit confusing, but I'm pretty certain that that's the way it works. As well as Impulsor charges, it also has quite a lot of other very scary applications. I would bear in mind first that it's not a charge move, so you don't get shock assault from it, and you don't get to fight first if you did use it to get into close combat. In general, it is a little bit better to bully other units, or to get units that are very durable into close combat that don't mind striking second. For that price though, the biggest advantage is that you can use it even if you're not allowed to charge. One of the first things that came to mind is a very long charge out of an Impulsor. Impulsors have a very long movement range of 14 inches, you can get out 3 inches of disembarking out of it, then make a 6-inch move, or even advance if you want if you're not bothered about shooting. Provided that 23 inches or more of movement takes you within 3 inches of an enemy, then in the fight phase you can just use Devout Push and just move 3 inches into combat, as technically you're not making a charge move. This could be just incredibly scary with something like Black Templar Blade Guard veterans piling out of an Impulsor. They're really tanky and really fighty in close combat, and their usual handicap is that they don't have the biggest move in the world. This completely gets around that. With a decent advance roll, you could very easily be getting a first turn charge, even if your opponent didn't deploy right on the line. So if you do see Blade Guard veterans in an Impulsor for Black Templars, be aware that they could be right in your face very, very quickly. It really doesn't end there though with this stratagem. You can use it for all sorts of other tricks as well, and to be honest it could let Black Templars do a decent amount of breaking the game in various ways. Obviously you can get the extra movement in combat. You get a total of 12 inches of movement between pile-ins and consolidates, as you get this pile-in at the start of the phase, and you get to pile-in again when you activate. 12 inches of movement between 2 3-inch pile-ins and a 6-inch consolidate means that you could get quite far if you do manage to wipe out some of your foes. If you wanted to go absolutely crazy, then you could combine it with Assault Intercessors Fighting Twice with Honor the Chapter. Could get you a crazy amount of movement with that 6-inch consolidate move done twice. I think it could be quite funny if you used it for extra movement outside of melee though, provided you're going closest to the nearest threat with the pile-in moves, then you could get a free 3-inch pile-in and perhaps use it to snag an objective that you just couldn't quite reach otherwise. You could use it for a very cheeky fallback and re-engage. Say you had a squad of 10 intercessors with auto bolt rifles that have got tied up in combat purging the enemy. You could drop them back just outside of 1 inch of that foe, shoot something else with the bolt rifles, and then use Devout Push to just put them straight back in close combat. If you have a long movement such as Vanguard veterans or bikers, you could perhaps do this while engaging a completely different threat as well. The bikers could drop back, move to within 1 inch of another target, and then use Devout Push to engage that foe. You could use it to avoid Overwatch if you move within 3 inches of a massive Tau shooting castle. If you Devout Push into them rather than charging them, you aren't taking any shots. And you could potentially do it to avoid a Wrap and Trap, even though we do have the stratagem to avoid that now. If you're sure that your opponent is going to try and Wrap and Trap one of your Black Templar models, it might be possible to get the jump on them by using early repositioning to make sure that none of their models can do that. Finally, in the opponent's turn, you could essentially have a heroic intervention type move that you could pull on any infantry or biker unit. It doesn't have to be used in the Black Templar player's assault phase, it could be used in the opponent's phase instead. If you did use it to engage a unit that charged, then they might not even be able to fight the unit that Devout pushed into them, as they didn't declare them as a charge target. I will say that all of these fairly silly interactions probably weren't intended when they wrote the stratagem, but so far it seems to have survived at least one FAQ and translation into the Black Templar Index. With them being not quite such a powerhouse army at the moment compared with some of the other Space Marine chapters, it might well fly under the radar for some time to come. So I'm sure this is probably old news to plenty of Black Templar players out there, but it was really quite an eye-opener for me. I didn't realise just how good this stratagem was until I looked at it a bit closer. I'd certainly be interested to hear from any Black Templar players who have managed to use this to good effect in any games. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where we'll certainly be keeping the Space Marine Tactics content coming over the coming weeks. Finally, if you have been getting some good value out of the videos, I'd just like to mention that the channel has a Patreon page, which you can find down in the video description below. Making all of this content does take a fair amount of time, so if you are enjoying regularly, then any support is massively appreciated. There are a few rewards for anyone who does help to support the channel, such as seeing new videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things comes next, and automatic entry into the prize giveaway with the chance to win some big model kits every single month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support the channel, then the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.